leading legal experts and innovators from top organizations who have successfully managed or helped manage remote teams throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. They will share their insights and experiences. Join this conversation on remote legal team management in the post-pandemic era. To hear about the potential pitfalls, challenges, and what it takes to thrive during these tough times. Let's welcome our panelists. Joshua Finkel, Director of Actors and an acting coach at Creative Combustion Acting Studio. Mr. Paul Friedman, Litigation Chairman for Accident Law Group at Brown, Crowell, and Friedman, doing business as Accident Law Group. Also, Ms. Brittany Field, Director of Consulting at TransPerfect Legal Solutions. And also Ms. Maria Gutirezz, Contract Attorney at Consilio, I believe. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Joshua Finkel. I run the Creative Combustion Acting Studio in Los Angeles, and what I do is I coach actors and public speakers of all ages and levels. So many times I'm hired by law firms, architectural firms, finance firms to go in and help them with their public speaking and presentation building. And I do everything from helping people heal their voice, because I find some of my attorneys say to me, I spend all day on the phone, I'm in arbitration, I'm before a jury, I'm before a judge, and by the end of the day, my voice is really spent. So sometimes I give them vocal production lessons, things like that, so they have great vocal stamina, and they can be really powerful inside their public speaking. In addition, one of the other things I do is really help with relaxation and online techniques. So one of the things that we're doing here on the panel is really talking about segueing your business to online. Since the pandemic, so many people have given up their office space because they said, well, we're never here and we can make it all work online. Why am I paying this rent? So there's a lot of stuff that's also happening a lot in the show business industry as well. All auditions, at least the first round, are all done by actors submitting self-tapes. So a lot of my work is either self-taping in my studio in Los Angeles or with clients that are around the country and coaching them online and creating an online self-tape that I tape for them, and then they submit it to casting. So what I wanted to show you today is because some of the tricks and things that can help you with your online management, all right? Let me see here. I'm going to show a bunch of stuff. First, I want to just, here we are. Let me see if I, okay, great. So, is this going up there? Great. One of the things you really want for your best online presence is a good neutral background, but a neutral background that really helps and serves your look. So if you have a certain skin coloring, and you kind of know by holding, this is a great exercise. If you just go to a place like Old Navy or the Gap, and they have all those different t-shirts and all the different colors laid out, like a rainbow of colors, go before a mirror and just start holding up t-shirts in different colors to your face, up to your neck. And if you find that you are brought up to your eyes and your face from the coloring, but it actually complements your skin tone and your hair color and your eye color, fantastic. If you find that it starts to wash you out, or it's so bright that you go from your eyes back to the shirt, like too many patterns, that's a great test. And you're going to find colors that really work for you and bring out your eyes, your cheekbones, and your coloring. Those are good colors for you, not only in what you wear online, but also to help complement the background behind you, yeah? So, a great neutral background, and I will show you a couple things while I'm there right now. I'm going to segue over here to my Zoom screen, all right? This is my settings in Zoom when I've opened up my Zoom program. So here we are with just the background that's behind me, all right? And what I've done is if let's say I don't want to have this kind of stark reality of you seeing everything that is all the bells and whistles and, pulling back the curtain of what's really behind me, I can go over here and blur the background. And it really makes me prominent, and it makes your background go away. That's a great quick fix if you're really on the fly and you're on your phone and you're in the car. That's something you have to do. Another thing is you can create your own background from dragging a JPEG into this and adding over here the little plus sign, and you can add a background. So this is the one that I use actually for my coaching studio. when I'm doing coaching. This is one that where I'm working with students at my university. I'm a professor at California Lutheran University. Okay. Oh, thank you. Oh, there's a monitor. Maria. Maria is a goddess here in this room. I want to thank Maria. Yes, okay, thank you. So now, okay, so I'm gonna sort of do this again. So now I'm gonna be going off of here because now I can't see my own screen. So if we look, here's a blurred background about, here's what's really happening in the room right now. Yeah? So if I go over here to blur, that's a great quick fix. It still makes you prominent and it makes your background go away. All right? Another thing is you can create your own custom backgrounds. I use this when I coach online for my own personal creative combustion acting studio and working with clients. This is a background I've created when I am coaching students at my university, at California Lutheran University in Thousand Oaks. And what I also wanted to show you, this will be a little trickier because I'm kind of doing this long distance. Okay, all right, so let's say where you are in your office or where it's quiet enough is really like literally a broom closet that I have to do zoom in or something horrible. Okay, so what you can do is if you go, let me see if I can do this right here, one moment. I'm working on so many levels. I can't quite, let me see if I can exit. Okay. One moment. What I want to show you now is if I go online, can you see that? Yes. So I Googled, literally in the airport on the way here, I Googled free Zoom backgrounds of office. Okay? And you can have so many free stock photos, tons and tons of things that you can go, oh, I'm here in this gorgeous garden view office, or I'm at a skyscraper in New York. You can download these pictures for free and then drag them and upload them into your Zoom background. All right? So from that, go back to over here. Sorry, I'm just trying to like wrangle everything and see what y'all can see. Great. Okay. Go to my Zoom settings. Drag that over here in a little bit.
Joshua, is it true that you're in Los Angeles in a conference room right now?
Yes, it is. Here I am. So this was one of the office settings that I did, but here's what I want to show you from what I did from dragging in that background, okay? Good, okay, here we are. So here's the original picture. And you'll notice, let me see, is that working? Here's the original picture. Okay, this is the one that's actually you download from online. Notice that oftentimes there's this extra, timestamp or logo or watermark that would be inside this picture. Click on that picture, crop it on your photo program, and cut it out. And then here's the exact same thing with that background, but without that watermark. And here I am in my office talking to you and talking to a client. So you can customize and create any background you want to serve you and what the image you are trying to create is your brand. Okay? So let me go out of here. I might as well stay in this lovely background. Something else that I find is very, very useful. Two things. A great way, if you're having any sort of, that's so strange. Oh, that's so bizarre.
Joshua, have you noticed that you have a ghost behind you?
I do. I'm like, boo, it's like the Haunted Mansion. Okay, I'm just, I don't know why that's happening. It's probably because of the double screening. This would not happen normally on your Zoom. But what I want to say is, if you ever have a chance to go, how am I coming off? How are people hearing me? Down here on the record button, all right, you can record to your computer. And it's a great way. Make a 30-second video. Do a recording, all right? Like I would just record right now. I'll just hypothetically do it. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to mute myself for now and do a little sound check. Hi, I'm Joshua Finkel. It's so great to have you at my meeting. Fantastic. And that would be it. I would stop it, and then I would exit the meeting. That little recording would render and go into a Zoom file on your hard drive. Click on it by date. You'll see it's like today's date. There's the 5-second file. And listen back and go, oh my gosh, my sound sucks, or it's really blurry or muted. Then you can play with all your levels before you get into a high stakes meeting and you find out that no one can understand you, all right? So do a little sound check. It's very, very important to do that, especially if you are segueing to screen sharing or segueing to something that has audio that you want everybody to hear. Run that down and record it, and you can do a dry run, and that's what people will hear. You can adjust all those settings before you go. Super important. I do a lot of performing online. So a lot of that for me is logistically setting up where my music accompaniment is going to be, so it's not drowning me out, that everybody can hear it, and my voice is over the music, and the music is not over my voice. Okay, so that's something that I would do, and also working with public speakers on that same thing. The next thing I would also say, this is really, really important. If you have a lot of international clientele, if English is not everybody's first language, and sometimes it's a little difficult to understand people, this is a fantastic function, and it's available in most things. If you go to your main settings, like zoom.us on the desktop site of Zoom, and type in the search under settings, closed caption, okay, like subtitles on your TV, right? Same thing here. And then it'll appear down here in your toolbar. See how it says closed captions, show captions? Fantastic. So I want the spoken language to be English, the caption will be this, or it can be any language that you choose. You could have the full transcript of what I'm saying appear in the side, so the entire session is transcripted and saved at the end of your session, which is so useful if you're recording something, you don't have a court reporter, and you really need to archive the session for evidence. That's a great way to do it. You can have different caption settings, in larger font, or things like that. So let's do a little bit, show the captions in English. Great. So now the captions are on. So watch what starts to happen. Where is it going? Who can see this transcript? Everybody. Great. Let's see if it starts to work. It did work yesterday.
Josh, while you're doing that,
Go ahead.
do you find that there's any security risk with using Zoom?
There isn't I have not had a security risk because they will always have a waiting room. So you are always monitoring who your folks are. And that's something that, I see, it was muted. That's why the transcripts, there we go. Okay, it was muted. That's why those captions were not working. So if you're on a call and you want to know exactly what you said, or if sometimes I talk too fast, and people think I talk too fast and stop talking like that. Now sometimes that can actually pick it up. That was actually pretty remarkable that it still understood me, thank goodness. But it's a great way to monitor your calls and certainly make sure you are understanding your clients that sometimes you have a hard time understanding because of a dialect or because of their pace. This is fantastic. And then look over here on the right, it's all archived. Both people, anyone on the call will be archived, and when you end the meeting, that transcript will be saved and sent to you. So there is your court reporting. There is something, and there's also like, oh, what did you say over here? Got it. You'll have it. Let's also talk about how to be on Zoom regarding your focus. This is very, very important. If I am talking with a client, all right, now one of the other things I would do here is I would reduce, actually let me just close this for now and reduce it to a very narrow window, all right? If you are, and then all of your folks will be on the window with you. But if you wanted to have copy that you are doing a presentation, put that copy, paste it on either side of the camera, so that basically when you are presenting and what the audience is getting is you looking in the camera. And I'm talking with you and asking my client a question or correcting them, as opposed to looking at them on the screen and talking to them this way and having the whole meeting be here. They don't feel like they're being talked with. Here, they're being talked with. Do you see what's happening on the screen? Yeah? And if I was reading something on either side of the camera with like a Post-it on either side, I could really talk about, well, today, what we wanted to talk about, John, was your public speaking and making sure that we are nailing your vocal stamina and making sure that you do not have any more vocal fatigue. That's what you want, right? And that person would say yes. But do you see the personal impact of talking directly into the camera? And that is tricky because we feel like we want to talk to the person we're speaking to. So a lot of times we spend the whole time doing this. When you're talking, look in the camera. When you're listening, you can look at that person. But when you're talking, look in the camera. Okay, that's super important by how it comes off. All right, let me also talk about lighting. Right now, because we're in a space that's nicely lit, you look pretty good. I look fantastic right now, if I do say so myself. All right. Thank you, Maria. So, but if let's say you're in an overhead meeting room, like if none of these lights were here and I was over there with this overhead meeting room light, I would look like Frankenstein with that kind of Bela Lugosi 1930s horror film lighting, okay? So having a strong, warm front light on you is very, very, very helpful. I have bought this, $10 on Amazon. I just literally looked up LED ring light for laptop. $10 got to me the next day. Clip it on here. You can adjust the various angles of it and get one with multiple settings. Here's why. So I'm going to power it up, and we're going to talk about, I'm going to put it on full power so you can see. Now, there are a lot of times, and this is sort of a warmer light, but watch what happens if I change the setting. This would be my preferred light. I think I look best in warm light, but here's cool light. I look a little more sick or a little more severe. This is daytime light, which is okay, but a little harsh. The warm light makes me look a little healthier, a little softer, a little bit more approachable than that harsh, overly exposed light, yeah? And you can adjust your laptop or the angle of your light to eliminate some of the glare that you are finding in your glasses. If you can, tilt your head down and look in the camera, that's another way to eliminate the glare of the ring light in your glasses and still be seen. Lighting is very, very important. And the other thing I want to talk about of how the lighting changes you. I'm going to end the Zoom meeting just for now. Any questions before I end the Zoom meeting about this technology? Yeah. Go ahead. And I'll repeat the question to make sure.
There you go.
There you go.
Do you ever use Audacity or GarageBand to integrate with Zoom?
Yes, I have used both those products to integrate with Zoom. The thing that you want to do with any time with that is, is make sure that under your share screen settings, okay? If I'm opening it up and I'm sharing a screen and one of those screens up here is GarageBand, make sure that you click on Share Sound down here and optimize for video clip. You can also go to the advanced setting up here and use the computer audio, or a portion of the screen will be that, if you still want to be appearing as opposed to you disappearing, yeah? For example, let's say I'm going to this picture, okay? And right now, let's see what happens on that shared screen. The settings here are a little wonky because normally this would be the entire screen of Zoom and that's all my person would see, all right? What you can do then is bring up your self view. Where's the show self? Here, show video panel. So then, let's say if none of this other stuff was here, we were in a normal screen, it was not as crowded, the person would see me talking as long as with my shared screen, as opposed to me disappearing and only seeing the shared screen. But if you're cutting away to some video evidence, like I want you to look at the video that was captured by the security camera, and all you want is that, hide the self view. But if you also want to see their reaction while they're watching that evidence, bring up the video panel and you can see everything. You can see, and it'll all be recorded. That's super important for their reaction as well. What I want to show you right now is a little bit more about the lighting. I'll end this Zoom meeting. Great. So here's one of my clients. We did a self-tape the other day. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about lighting. Okay. She was doing an audition, a callback for a series, and she had to be an executive sort of secretary at this kind of funky startup. And she loved what she was wearing in terms of her light blue button down. She's gorgeous, but because of that really white background, that light blue button down was not really popping. And so it was first with this cooler lighting. Look at the difference here. It really kind of went away. If I had her change her setting to the warmer light, whoops, it popped more. It also made her look a little bit more, it was a rom-com, so it made her look a little bit funnier, a little warmer, more engaging. Again, change the lighting setting. It will change your clothing, it will change your look, it will change your branding, it will change how you are perceived, all right? Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to make sure. Oh my goodness. What the heck? Let me go back to here. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint presentation to make sure I didn't leave anything out for you guys. Okay. Oh, this is also really important. If while you are on so good lighting on your face, neutral background, and earbuds. If you find that you're in a space that has a lot of ambient sound, there's a lot of people on calls around you, and if you go into your sound settings, the auto cancellation of that sometimes will get rid of that ambient sound on the sound settings, but it will also make your voice a little in and out if any sounds come in during your speaking. A great way around that is to get some earbuds, all right? And go back to your settings, make sure that your mic is set for your earbuds and they will hear you beautifully. You will hear them. You're going to block out all the sound, and none of that ambient sound is going to get into your Zoom experience with them. You can have a really clean take and a really great recording of your legal session. All right? Let's see what else we have. Oh, very important. When you are on Zoom, you can have a lot of, I should have been back on Zoom, darn it. Let me see if I can go back on Zoom for a moment. Here I am. Great. So here under the sound settings, I'm muted right now, but here under the sound settings, these are the different places you can choose your earbuds. They will appear here between those different mediums. You can choose anything, your mic you're on, the earbuds will, as long as it's paired to your computer, you can get it there. Now, let's look at the view up here. Right now, if I was in a call with multiple people, a gallery view, that would show up all the different screens, and it can be a little confusing of who is speaking, who is featured. If you put yourself up here on speaker view, the person that's speaking pops up and becomes prominent, and other people recess into a little sort of film strip at either side of you, all right? Another opportunity that you can do, though, if there were multiple people, would be go to full screen, and then there'll be an opportunity near that person to click on it and to say, spotlight for everyone. And everyone will see this in a big way and the other people in a small way. So let's say we're going to go to a big long section when we're going to question somebody and we really want to see their reaction and their testimony. Pin spot or spotlight that particular screen for everyone, and that's going to be the prominent thing on your recording. So you can always go between gallery, pin spot, remove the pin spot, spotlight for everyone as a great way to communally sort of be the camera director and bring the attention to where you want it to be. Let's see if we can go back to here. Go back. Close captions and mute as unmute as needed. Great. Let's see. Right, eliminate things that distract from any other online participants. So if you have a lot of stuff that is going around, like what was going on right here, I removed those people, I really highlighted that screen, and spotlighting helps you do that. The eye contact with the camera is crucial. People really feel like they're being talked with, and it's a really tricky thing. You have to kind of peripherally watch their reaction when you're talking, and then when they're talking, you can really be with them. But go back into the camera when you're talking. We talked about the content placement on either side of the camera. Also, this is really important. If you are nervous, how many people get nervous before they present or, oh my God. All right, so everybody, first of all, how many people like roller coasters? Yes, okay. So, not roller coasters, not a roller coaster fan, okay. So, find that thing that is equivalent to something that's joyous for you, okay? When we're going on a roller coaster, and you're going up that first long, steep grade, and you're about to go over that first drop, what are you feeling? What's the sort of the symptoms that's going on in your body? What do you feel? What? You're like, why did I sign up for this? Okay, so my heart races, I might have butterflies in my stomach, my palms may be a little sweaty. I'm excited though, because I love roller coasters. I'm like, here we go, ah! Okay, we have a good time. What happens when you're nervous? What are the symptoms? Yep, butterflies in my stomach, I got a little jumpy, all the same stuff. Same exact symptoms. In one situation, we label those things as excitement. In the other situation, we label those things as nervous. It's the half full glass. Is it half empty or half full? Same half glass. It's your perspective on how you label it. So don't let these symptoms shortcut you, right, or stifle you. Just say, oh, I must be really excited to talk with this client and have this presentation. I'm really excited to get this information. So it's your party. If you imagine that every group you meet, everyone you ever talk to, put yourself in this situation. You are throwing at your house the most slamming party in the whole world. The food is kicking, everything is just magnificent, all right? Everyone's having a ball. And you open that front door, and everybody at that front door are your best friends coming to your party. How would you greet them? You want to take care of them as the party host. How are you? It's so good to see you, right? I'm so excited to work with you today. Let's really make sure we get the evidence to help with your case today. I'm really looking forward to this, okay? People feel welcomed, they feel positive. Instead of you coming thinking you're crashing their party, you don't know what you're doing, I'm an out-of-place guest, and I'm like this, yes, let's talk about your case today, sir. Oh my gosh. No, I want to be in good hands. Put on your party hat. You always, every door you open, make up that all your best friends are in that room. Have everybody that you are talking with be your best friend. And here's the thing to remember. When you are out there right now, when we started this presentation, are you out there going, oh God, I really hope this sucks? No, we don't want it to suck. We don't want it to be bad. Everyone starts with this kind of openness, like, oh, what do you got? I'm open. Know that you are speaking into that openness, right? Instead of I'm speaking into a firing squad, no, I'm speaking into a group of friends that actually want to hear my information. So I'm creating this bridge of sharing rather than this terrifying experience of being judged and being killed. No, really. Put your attention on them. Depending how they're receiving the information, jockey and bob and weave to bring their eyes to you. And if someone is kind of zoning out and doing something, really kind of be with them and keep engaging with them until they look up and go, oh, hi, you're talking with me. Like, I'm talking with you. And that's really important because remember, people want to be talked with, not to be talked at. Talk with people. Based on their reaction, you can change how you're going to say the next thing because you're really watching them. You're really watching them on Zoom or you're really watching them, in the room. So, that's that. That's my little spiel. Are there any questions on this little section about any things we talked about with Zoom or how I can help you? Yeah, Judy, can you come to the mic?
Okay. I teach a couple of classes a month on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a setting I'm sure there's not, but I'm going to ask anyway,
Go for it.
where you can have people show their faces rather than hide behind the view where you can't see them. Like a lot of people.
Do you mean camera off and just showing the screensaver?
Right, because when you teach, it is so much more effective to say, okay, I'm going to call on Joshua now. Joshua from LA is going to tell us, but if they don't have their name and you can't see their face, I find it much more difficult. And I was just wondering, is there such a setting where they have to show you who they are?
That's up to, you can kind of control that a little bit on your meeting settings. You can control that on how you ask people to come into the room. They must sort of identify themselves as a restriction
Really?
setting. You can say only these participants with these emails are allowed in this meeting.
Okay.
And that can at least let you know that. But you can certainly ask in people's own personal settings and their own personalization under the zoom.us or their name.
Right.
You can have them type in their name, they can type in their pronouns,
Right.
they can even type in wherever they're from. They can keep typing and have whatever they want in that strip. And just as a prerequisite, I would say, it's very important that when I'm addressing you, that your camera is on.
Right.
You
Thank
know,
you.
so that you know where you are, and then spotlight that person, or put it on the speaker setting, so that person who's talking, who's asking the question, becomes prominent, and they're there, and then you start talking, and then you become prominent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would say too, just at the outset of a meeting, if someone's more junior, just to open the invitation to say, you'll get more out of this, I will get more out of this if I can see your face. I know there may be some days when you can't, or give them a heads up so they can freshen up before the call. But I
Yes.
think sort of making that, everyone's going to get more out of this with the camera on.
Absolutely.
I can also tell you from teaching at a law school that oftentimes we do it on Zoom. And I mandate that they sit there and I watch their faces as they're doing it. And I can't tell you how many times I can tell when somebody's playing a video game as I'm talking to them. But it's really obvious. And so if you have a real formal class setting, you can mandate it. And I do mandate it.
Like, please don't be on your phone. Please don't be playing video games. Don't be ordering your food. Yes. Okay.
Hey, so I have a question for all the panelists. So we know that things changed. I'm not sure what you all did legally before pandemic, like if you did many virtual sessions with people and all that sort of thing. What I'm finding out also as an educator is that during pandemic, we had very set situations. When it does, now that pandemic's sort of winding down and it's less formal, things are different for us. So the question I have for all three of you is how did you do things via Zoom or video pre-pandemic? How did it change during the pandemic? And then are you doing changes now that we're kind of past the pandemic, even though it's not over?
So that's a great question. I can tell you from a personal perspective that before the pandemic, I didn't even know what Zoom was. And everything was at the office. And I can give you from a legal perspective various things that we did that we now do 100% differently. The first is depositions, which is a sworn statement under oath. And when we take those, we do it with a court reporter. We do it sometimes with a videographer as well. That would always be in person before this. I was traveling around the country pretty frequently. Experts are generally all over the country or all over the world, so there was a lot of travel involved. Once COVID hit, our world obviously changed, and we had to continue practicing law, and that was what was nice about Zoom coming in. Zoom was really ahead of its time. The problems that I have with Zoom is, one, is it's not necessarily secure, whereas maybe Microsoft Teams is a little bit more secure, and so those things worry me a little bit because I don't want somebody interloping in a deposition or a formal proceeding that I have. And our court system uses Teams, which is Microsoft. I prefer Zoom personally because I think it's easier to use.
Can I just ask a question about the security thing? What's your experience? How do people get past the waiting room or get into your meeting anyway?
Well, not being an expert in Zoom, I can't tell you,
Maybe
but
your
I have
settings
had
aren't
interlopers come into
Okay.
Zoom meetings. So it is a problem, especially if you're in a confidential conversation. And so I would always caution that. One thing also that we talked about was, the closed caption, things like that. In a legal setting, I have an ethical obligation to let people know that I'm going to either be recording the conversation And what's nice with Zoom is it tells you right up front, you're recording the conversation. I've been involved with depositions where it was not supposed to be recorded. The attorney starts recording it, and I've had to seek court intervention to get that turned off because it's an unfair advantage.
Right.
So now, and I can tell you also, I use it in a different way. I serve as a judge pro tem in Arizona. And so a lot of times we do mediations or settlement conferences, and Zoom is a fantastic way of doing it. Instead of having the parties all lined up in different rooms, I can have them with ease at their own individual places. I can place them into their own rooms with their attorneys. It's a much better way of conducting settlement conferences, although it doesn't have the same personal appeal. You're still talking to a camera as opposed to talking to them individually.
And those are, just to say what that is, those are breakout rooms, which is another thing. So you can have this team, lawyer team and client in this breakout room. You can pop in and talk with them. If you don't want everybody interacting or hearing everybody else's stuff, you just segregate them into breakout rooms. And then you can also put more people, if you want to have these two rooms get together, you can drag those folks into this breakout room and then everybody's together. So you have that mix and match thing.
And then how for you? Yeah.
I find that the Zoom meetings during the pandemic versus before the pandemic were less structured in the sense that they couldn't, the managers couldn't really monitor if you showed up or not.
Right.
You weren't really getting docked for not being there. So I think there was more of an understanding that if you can make it, there's probably an extenuating reason. Being at home, you have to really explain like you would normally, like at work, like if you're in the office, like why weren't you at the meeting?
Right.
So, and as far as the technology is involved, I don't see much of a difference between using Zoom or the other team meeting platforms like Microsoft Teams. Sometimes it's a timing issue. If you're not used to it, you have to get used to it. Or sometimes there's more, because it's online and remote, you have more interaction over the internet that can cause a slight panic if you're not facile with communications and knowing who to get in touch with to get on the meeting. But other than that, I don't see much difference, except I think the stressors were reduced as far as showing up face to facially and being monitored, what you're doing online, your presence online. So.
Right. And then sticking with you for one quick question, legally, when you are filming depositions, legal situations like that, do the laws vary from state to state, or is it more uniform now because everybody's filming?
They do vary state to state. They also vary from states to federal court. Each federal court has its own local rules. It used to be really prohibitive to do video depositions. 100% of my depositions are videotaped. And I can tell you that although I think Zoom is a great tool, I still travel throughout the country and the world to do depositions in person for a number of reasons. One is I want to spontaneously see what's going on with the person that I'm deposing. So it makes a big difference for me. But also, I'm a little cautious when somebody's doing a Zoom deposition. There may be somebody else in that room with them. And so, not that I think that attorneys would do that, because we all know that attorneys would never play games like that. But that is a factor that I have. So,
one benefit that I'll mention quickly is, for example, for our clients, sometimes on a hearing, they want an expert to be there on short notice. So it can be really beneficial that now it's on Zoom during the hearing and we're there.
And I can also tell you that in my last trial, the defendant wanted to bring in experts via Zoom. I objected to it because they didn't notify us previously that they wanted to do that. If they had notified us, I would have been fine with it. But it's certainly a much better tool. Now you can bring an expert right into a trial. I think it's probably less effective in front of a jury, but it's still more effective than not bringing the expert in.
I have two questions. The first is, if I do a Zoom call with an attorney or someone else, do I need to have a disclaimer put on there if it's going to be put on, say, YouTube?
If you're talking to an attorney, let's take it in two different places.
Okay.
If you're the attorney, there's no possibility that you're putting that on YouTube unless there's a full disclaimer that there's no confidentiality with regard to that conversation. If you're a client, you can do whatever you want, but then you are losing confidentiality if you actually put it out there, to the public. As an attorney, in most states, there are ethical requirements that we have to do a disclaimer if we're going to record anything. And that's because as attorneys, we have a fiduciary responsibility. There's a lot of other instances where it's probably true as well. Majority shareholders probably have those same fiduciary duties. Accountants, engineers, physicians, telemedicine is a big thing now, and they have the same disclaimers. If you're going to lose confidentiality, you also have to make sure that if you're on something like Zoom, that you have a disclaimer that it's not encrypted, and that somebody can get into that. Now, I don't know how they do it because I'm luckily not well versed in that, but it's just like using email for us. When email came out 20 years ago, there was a lot of ruckus about, how do we keep this confidential and what do we do? And every one of my emails has a disclaimer on it that it's not encrypted and that it is possible, although not intended, that somebody else pick up on it. What's your thought?
I second that. You're the lawyers up here, so.
Well, say for example, I was having almost like a podcast with you, me interviewing you as an attorney. Would I need to put a disclaimer on that? Is my question. In a way.
Well, that's, I think it depends on what the person's expectation is. If we were having a podcast, I would say no, because I would know that I'm being recorded and it's for commercial use. The same way that we're doing this here. This is coming out on YouTube. I don't think that I have to put out a disclaimer that,
Okay.
I'm not having a personal confidential communication with you. So I don't think that would be necessary at all.
Okay, thank you. Second question for Joshua.
Yeah.
Is since I have a lot of presentations, I'm always looking to the left or right because of where the group is. So my question is there any kind of app for, say, a teleprompter that would be on Zoom so I can just read any kind of a script right there? So
Absolutely. It's less on Zoom within Zoom's technology, but teleprompter.com, you could just look for online teleprompter. It could be a download-free app, and you could have both those things running concurrently. But the thing that I would definitely say, though, is, and you might be able to do it a couple of different ways. You could probably put it into a vertical scrolling or even a horizontal scrolling like that's on a bank tape kind of thing, the ticker tape. So the thing that is closest to the camera and that you can really look just under it and just around it to keep you into the camera as much as possible, that's ideal. But here's the most important thing. If you have to read from a document, and you can't jack it up on either side of the screen, it's difficult with the backlighting where you are. Okay, here's the most important thing. If you are always coming up at the end of a point you are making, and you can use punctuation as a guide for that, like here comes a comma, here comes the period, here comes the question mark, or whatever. So if you are coming up off the page and into the camera, or let's say into the room, 3 to 5 words before that punctuation, you're not speaking too quickly so that your eyes can move faster than your mouth, and you kind of read ahead and be at the end of the statement, I'm coming up for the point I want to make. And then I can go back into the text and talk about, here's the question that I wanted to ask you. The biggest mistake people have, because they freak out that, oh my God, I don't know what's next, that they go down into the page before they finish making the point. So I might say something like, so Mary, here's the really important point I need to make to you, is that you must be a wonderful employee in my company. Versus, Mary, here's the most important point I want to make to you. I think that you are the best employee in my company. You see the difference of how it goes into the hearts of the person? That's so important. Come up off the page, 3 to 5 words before the point you want to make, and using punctuation as the guideposts of when you're coming up and making your point. And that's, ideally if you can do that even with the stuff on either side of the camera as well.
I apologize. One other thing that you may, at work I've got 3 screens going on at the same time. I keep Zoom limited because I know that I want to speak in the camera, but I'm often doing all kinds of work, while I'm on Zoom, and certainly you could easily use another screen to utilize that type of, material.
Thanks,
Okay,
Ed.
that eliminates one of my questions. Okay.
Good.
So I I'm going to use two words, and they're questions regarding disruptive and distractive. So what I found is that a lot of people like cameras, they like to be on there, but they don't know how to act on there. What are some suggestions to eliminate that or to address it?
I would say, I guess it's for me, I would say, or whatever, be careful of, look at your framing and make sure that you are staying in frame versus like, oh my God, that was the greatest party I ever saw. And you're like, whoa. Find, so you can be still generally. If you think about the energy being up and down in your body as opposed to side, okay? More of a vertical energy. The energy is coming up in your passion through your voice and how you express yourselves and coming out your eyes. Then you really can make the point you want to make without being too big and too full of movement or too full of hand gestures.
Okay.
Remember also that movement wins over words. If someone is constantly moving their hands and saying, it's so important that everything I'm saying is really absorbed, everything becomes, well, first you're like, what's he doing with his hands? What's going on? Is he juggling? What's happening? We don't know. But then everything has so much movement that nothing makes a difference. So if you save your gesturing for an emotional moment, like this is really important. Mary, you are the best person we have here, right? Or, and I'm landing that in stillness. I'm giving you a gesture, but then I'm being emphatic in stillness with the point I'm making, as opposed to, Mary, you are the best employee we have here. How did that read to you? Compare it. It's kind of like distracting.
Right.
It gets blurry. We don't quite know. I'm watching a move. I didn't hear what he said, right?
So I can also tell you from a legal standpoint, disruptive is what a lot of attorneys like to do. And I've sat through depositions where they're sitting there typing on their computers as hard as they can. I've sat through Zoom depositions where I can hear them typing away. I personally keep notes on our case system management during a deposition. Very simple. If they're being disruptive, you put them on mute. Or the person in charge puts them on mute. Or the court reporter generally will ask them to put them on mute because if it's distracting to me as the person asking the questions,
Right.
it's going to be 10 times more distracting to the court reporter.
But what about the video? Distractive or disruptive with the video?
I really am not paying attention, but you can change the views that you have on Zoom so that you can focus on whatever you want. Sometimes, the way that I do it is I focus on whoever's speaking.
The speaker view or
the speaker
spotlighting
view.
or pinning that person.
You can do it as a gallery view, but to me, because maybe of ADHD, that is too much for me. And it's information overload.
Okay. I think it sort of depends on the context too. I mean, if there are people that work for you, I think it's fine to say, we're going to have a quick session on what to do and what not to do. This isn't Facebook, this isn't FaceTime with your friends. Like this is different, and these types of things can be especially distracting, especially if someone has their camera on and they're doing something else and they can't see themselves in the camera to realize how distracting they're being. And I don't remember my other thought, but that was the thing.
And muting and unmuting really fixes a lot of stuff. And you also have control of like if you're the meeting regulator, it's your meeting, you have control over hide that person, hide yourself, bring them up, mute that person, unmute that person, ask them to unmute. You have a lot of kind of omnipotent controls that really can serve you orchestrating the meeting and orchestrating the focus.
Or just pause, say, I'm hearing some background noise. Can everyone make sure they're on mute? Or, Sally, go on mute.
I think those, in the legal profession it goes back to, when you're in law school and you get a lot more from the way the person is talking, the way their inflections, what they're emphasizing, if you're understanding a good point. More so than let's say, appearance or something technically wrong with the medium. So I think going back to those basics really holds true for doing a successful remote legal team management and project during this time where people are unsure if they're going back to the office and how people conduct themselves at the office is going to be the same when they go back to the office, or whether they're going to change things in business or law, and how these remote legal teams are managed. So the best advice is, I think, that which you acknowledged and absorbed in law school. I think I saw you on stage already a couple times, so I think it's not really an issue for someone like you. But during the pandemic, we were looking to understand what's going on, and lawyers have to hold themselves as lawyers. So, I guess doing a good job online and on screen is part being an actor or acting as a lawyer, being an actor and being a lawyer. So you use all those skills on TV or on screen or wherever your medium is for conducting a meeting.
Great. Well, definitely not just let it go. Thank you. Do something. Thank you.
So I know we only have a few minutes left. One thing I want to ask each of the individual panelists is there anything from today's presentation that you would like to reinforce or add to? And then the personal question I have for you, if you want to answer, is do you prefer live as opposed to video conferencing?
I think most people prefer to do things in person, but when you add on a commute and other responsibilities, that the remote option often wins out. I'll combine that with your first question too. I think one of the things in some of the discussions we've had, one of the biggest takeaways I've had is it can take some trial and error to find a balance. I think another theme was sometimes the recent law grads or recent college graduates, especially during the pandemic, had a really tough time working remotely, and they just missed out on the mentoring. They missed out on some of the just learning the skills, how to be on a video call, how to conduct yourself, and so one of our panelists who unfortunately couldn't be here today, mentioned they would set up daily calls, and that was too much. They had to sort of pare it back. So I think just trial and error, try something, and if it doesn't work, adjust and move on from there until you sort of find a happy medium. If it's going in, something, okay, we're going to go back 5 days a week. Just, maybe it's going to be once every other. Just kind of finding the balance, I think, is important.
Did you do many video things before pandemic?
I would say no. I would say most was either in person or just a regular phone call, and now a lot more video, which I appreciate because I do not work in, I'm in Northern Virginia and my team's in New York, and so to see their faces is good because I wouldn't otherwise.
And I can tell you, I taught at the medical school for a decade and now teach at the law school. To me, I feel that my advanced degrees are in a philosophical basis. So the way that I teach is philosophically, Socratically. And that's, law school teaches that as well.
So philosophically, do you like Zoom better?
Well, so philosophically, I like being in person because I feel like when you're on Zoom, you're teaching. But if I'm in a room with people, I can facilitate. And to me, it's more important to facilitate. I'd rather have you push you to your limit by sitting here and having a one-on-one discussion and having everybody learn from it, as opposed to me just lecturing. I think lecturing is not an effective way to teach.
I agree.
So if I understand your question, it's do I prefer Zoom meetings
As opposed to live?
as opposed to live?
Yeah.
I have no preference.
Oh, okay.
I think the skill set involved in being an effective communicator in a meeting is probably different if you're on TV, on screen, and conveying a message well when you can't see the person fully, and read their expressions as well as you can in person, of course. But I have no preference. I think communication, however you communicate with somebody, I mean, one person, there's two people in communication. We all know one is the sender, one is the receiver.
Right.
So if you don't blur the line and that first point, then you implement all your skills as a communicator and a lawyer. So.
Sure. And then to follow up with that, was there anything spoken about today during the panel that you wanted to touch base on or whatever?
Can I pop in with my contribution?
Yeah.
To that as well?
I'm sorry.
I prefer a live because in many of the things that I teach, it's physiological. So if it's someone who's having vocal fatigue, I actually want them to feel my throat. I want to feel what's going on with their breath. So, but because so much of the industry now is online, I found a ways around that. But it's never as great as sort of a tangible moment in the room. But and I have another just a thing for combating nerves. Put your hand on your throat. Everybody, put your hand on your throat. I want you to take a breath in. First take a breath in and make a sound. Okay, if you're hearing a sound, that means there's a slight closure to the open straw of your airway that's causing that sound. Now breathe in through your nose and mouth and completely silently, and put your hand way down here on your lower belly, like near your belt buckle. And what I want you to do is take in a totally silent breath and also imagine that you're in your favorite jacuzzi and all the jacuzzi jets are hitting you just right and you're breathing in with the feeling of, oh, that feels so good on my back right now. Okay, so take in a silent inhale and let your body and your belly expand. Just let the muscles go and open up. Good. Breathe in for 2 and out for 4. Silently. Here we go. Breathing in, 2 and out for 4. Out silent. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again. In, 2, out. 1, 2, 3, 4. How do you feel? Calm. Centered. Not like, right? So remember, the next inhale, the next silent breath, jacuzzi breath inhale you take is a chance to reboot, reground, refine your calm, refine your focus if you find that nerves are taking you over. So that's just a little free gift. It's like you always have it with you. Go ahead, what's your question?
And then so then just finally,
Thank you.
was there anything during the panel today that you wanted to like revisit or touch base on or make comment about?
Sorry, could you repeat your
Sure.
question?
Was there anything discussed during this panel today that you wanted to comment on, revisit, or add to?
Yeah, I think there's a kind of a, it's sort of like the speakers we're testing to what it's like to work remotely during the pandemic and the post-pandemic era, what's going to look like, and also building skills as a acting as a lawyer, but also acting for lawyers. I think since I'm more concerned about remote work, since that is what I do, I don't know what you do. What do you work on remote teams?
No, that answers my question. Yeah, very much so, very much so. And I think we're at time.
We're out, yeah.
I'd like to, again, thank you all so much. This was very informative. I learned a lot. And I think we probably had the same vocal coach at some point because that exercise is very familiar to me.
Happy to help.
Yeah. So
Pick me
thank you
up.
all.
I'd love
Thank
to
you all
work with
very much. If anybody else has any
Absolutely.
questions, you can meet these four, outside the room at the rest of the conference. Thank you very much. Let's give them a big hand.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.